He looks like MJ, he plays like MJ, and he's currently the most unstoppable one-man offense in basketball. And because he's also funny and super charismatic, Anthony Edwards has become a new face of the NBA. But his road to superstardom was far from easy. Ant's life was filled with tragedy. His story is one of perseverance and achieving the American dream through adversity. This is the incredible story of Anthony Edwards, a guy who originally wanted to be an NFL player, but instead became an NBA superstar. While most players get their nickname when they get to the NBA, Anthony got his when he was 3. His father called him Ant-Man, but other than the nickname and athletic genes, he didn't contribute much to his son's life. Instead, Anthony was raised by his mother and grandmother, who were his biggest cheerleaders. However, Ant-Man wasn't dominating in basketball, but in football. When Anthony was 7 years old, he was bigger, taller, and faster than everybody else. Large feet and hands, strong calves and joints, boosted with almost unnatural athleticism, were a package that made him unstoppable on the football field. Anthony could have been a running back, a cornerback, or a wide receiver in the NFL. But after he saw one of his brothers dunk, Edwards started to fall in love with basketball. However, his mother insisted that he stick with football because she believed he could become a pro and bring his family out of poverty. But then, at the age of 13, one injury changed his career trajectory. Ant broke his left ankle so badly during a football game that he was limping to school for the next few months. And when he returned, he wasn't the same player anymore. Like, he got bit by a radioactive spider or something. Anthony's athleticism tripled after the injury. His left leg had gotten so much stronger and bouncier, like someone installed a trampoline in it. He could take off and fly like never before, dunking for the first time at age 14. And when he got that first taste of the rim, Ant-Man couldn't get enough of it. All he wanted to do was to play basketball and shatter rims in every gym he went to. But even though he bulldozed through opponents because of his athletic ability, his overall game was far from perfect. And then Ant met a man who would change his life. It was Justin Holland, an Atlanta-based skills trainer who saw enormous potential in the 14-year-old Edwards. Holland challenged Edwards and started pushing his buttons. And this kind of tough love was something Anthony responded to, because it was the same way his mother pushed him all his life. And even though Holland's workouts were tough and exhausting, Ant kept coming for more. The duo would spend hours in the gym throughout high school, and Holland would sometimes spend more time with Edwards than with his own family. The initial focus of their practices was on shooting, shot selection, and ball handling, because Edwards knew how to get to the rim, but couldn't shoot at all. At the time, Ant said to Holland that if he was able to improve his shot, nobody would be able to stop him. And that's exactly what happened. Holland kept pushing Edwards, who proved to be a true gym rat and wanted to soak up basketball knowledge like a sponge. While his classmates were out drinking and partying, Edwards was spending his evenings in the gym with his trainer. But then, tragedy struck. On January 5th, 2015, when Anthony was still only 14 years old, his mother lost a long battle with cancer. And just 8 months later, cancer claimed another member of his family, his grandmother, which left Anthony without the two biggest cornerstones of his life. His older brothers and sister took legal custody of him. However, they were still only teenagers, not financially able to support themselves and their younger brother. Anthony was never in a stable place, moving from home to home, and those circumstances could have completely wrecked anybody's will to play sports. But not Edwards. Despite those horrible losses and tough living conditions, Ant-Man pushed through the pain and wanted to succeed even more. He started wearing the number 5 because both his mom and grandma passed away on the 5th of the month, and he wanted to pay homage to them in every game he played. However, his road to success was far from easy. Anthony transferred from a public school to Holy Spirit Prep School to improve his academic performance. He knew that if he wanted to stay eligible to practice and play basketball, he needed to get the grades. So he'd wake up earlier than most to make an hour-plus commute each way to his new school, where he had to wear a uniform, go to mass, and where he felt completely out of place. Edwards also reclassed to graduate earlier, which would improve his chances of getting a scholarship. And that meant he needed to take more classes. With extra time in school, basketball practice, and private workouts with Holland, Anthony was exhausted. He didn't get an ounce of special treatment. But one teacher realized how worn out he was and allowed him to sleep in her office during the day so he could be rested for the late practice. Extremely tired from everything, Edwards would just roll out on the carpet and fall asleep in seconds. But all that hard work paid off. He led his high school to a state championship as a junior, and as a senior, he averaged 29 points and 10 rebounds per game, after which he was considered a consensus top 5 recruit in the country and could choose wherever he wanted to go to college. He eventually settled on the Georgia Bulldogs because he wanted to stay close to home, but also because of Coach Tom Crean, who previously coached Dwayne Wade and Victor Oladipo, players Edwards shared many similarities with.
They came in not highly rated, so they came out a really good player, and Dwayne Wade has had a really good career, so it weighed big on me.
When he first arrived at training camp, his vertical leap measured 39.5 inches. But because of his work ethic, just 2 months later, he improved it to 41.5. In his first college game, Ant-Man scored 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 steals, breaking Dominique Wilkins' record for the most points in a debut for the Bulldogs. Edwards also became the first Bulldog to score 37 points in a game since 1975. And after averaging 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, he was named the Freshman of the Year in the Southeastern Conference. Although the NCAA season had to be canceled due to the pandemic, Edwards showed enough to be considered a top prospect. But he was not a sure thing. Despite working tirelessly to improve his jump shot, Ant shot just 40% from the field and 29% from 3 in his lone season at Georgia. And even with a shaky jumper, Edwards too often fell in love with shooting, not knowing the difference between the shots he can take and the shots he should take. He wasn't attacking the rim as much as he should based on his athleticism and wasn't exploiting mismatches. Edwards was also a below-average passer, and defensively, he often got beat due to a lack of focus and engagement. Another thing that didn't go in his favor was his indifferent approach to things, and the fact that he said he'd give up basketball completely if he had a chance to play in the NFL. But despite all those question marks, the talent he possessed was too tantalizing for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who selected Edwards with the first overall pick.
With the first pick in the 2020 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Anthony Edwards from the University of Georgia.
Anthony Edwards with his mother and grandmother with him there in spirit.
And when the 2021 season finally started after a long hiatus due to the pandemic, Ant-Man quickly proved that the Wolves made the right choice. Because Ant, at his core, was a professional bucket getter who could get his shot off against anybody. Even when he was a rookie, there wasn't much a defender could do when Edwards got the ball in isolation. His lightning-quick first step and the ability to finish with both hands through contact made him a nightmare to guard when he turned on the Jets. And because Edwards dribbles with both hands and can get his shot up from left and right dribbles, it opens up great possibilities when attacking. In addition, Ant-Man was also able to knock down sidestep and step-back jumpers, which made him even more unpredictable. And if everything else failed, Edwards' athleticism could always bail him out, and some of his dunks were absolutely filthy. As a rookie, Ant averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, finishing second in the Rookie of the Year voting behind LaMelo Ball. And apart from his success on the court, fans fell in love with his personality off the court. Unapologetically himself, confident, and full of youthful charm.
But I was 4th, 5th hitter. You know what that means.
Clean up. Yeah.
Straight clean up on aisle 3. Come get it.
Ant-Man immediately became a star. Before his sophomore season, Edwards grew because he was still a teenager, now measuring at 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. And apart from being literally a bigger physical threat, Edwards' jumper began falling more regularly. And in his second season, he improved his effective field goal percentage from 49% to 53%, averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. But even more importantly, he brought a winning attitude to the team, and the Timberwolves made the playoffs for the first time in 4 years, and only the second time since 2004. In his playoff debut against Memphis, Ant scored 36 points with 6 assists in a 130-117 Game 1 win. Even though the Wolves eventually lost the series in 6 games, Edwards was the best scorer, averaging 25 points and over 40% shooting for 3. This success prompted the Wolves management to cash in on the plethora of draft picks they accumulated over the years to maximize their potential while Ant-Man was still on a rookie deal. So they traded for Rudy Gobert to bring a defensive presence inside. And despite being the youngest player on the team at only 21 years, Ant became a team leader, both on and off the court.
Hey man, we still got games to play. I know we had but we still got games to play, man.
In his third season, Edwards led the Timberwolves in scoring with 24.6 points per game, and his numbers improved across the board. He also made the All-Star team for the first time.
But we actually were able to add 2 All-Stars this year. League called Anthony Edwards.
But just like he did a year before, he saved his best for the playoffs. Very few players improve their numbers and efficiency in the postseason when defenses dial in and every possession matters. And it's even more rare that it happens for such a young player. But that's exactly what Ant-Man did, proving that he's the best when it matters the most. In Game 2 of the first-round series against the Nuggets, Edwards put up 41 points in a 122-113 loss, which set a franchise record for the most points scored in a playoff game, surpassing Sam Cassell's previous record of 40. Then, in Game 3, Edwards scored 36 points, joining Kobe Bryant with the second most 30-point playoff games before turning 22. In Game 4, Edwards had 34 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks, and scored a crucial three-pointer to lead the Timberwolves to a 114-108 overtime win. But there was no stopping Jokic that year, and the Wolves lost in the first round again. With Edwards again leading all scorers in the series with 31 points per game. And while the world mocked the Timberwolves for making the Gobert trade, which seemingly hurt the team's chemistry, spacing, and most importantly their winning percentage, things changed in the 23-24 season. Minnesota won 56 games in the regular season, their second best result ever, and Edwards further established himself as an NBA superstar. With 26, 5, and 5, he improved in nearly all statistical categories and made the All-Star team. And once again, he raised his game in the playoffs, where he further separated himself from other All-Stars, who routinely average fewer points and whose shooting percentages fall off a cliff in the postseason. But Ant-Man is built differently. In the first round against the Suns, Edwards led all scorers with 31 points per game, shooting a crazy efficient 51% from the field and 44% from deep. He also led Minnesota in assists and steals, proving wrong all the doubters who questioned his defensive focus and playmaking ability. But even more importantly, Minnie swept the Suns.
Take y'all home! Take y'all home! Tell them take them home, Mario!
Which was their first series win in 20 years. He also surpassed Kevin Garnett for the most 30-point playoff games in Timberwolves franchise history, with 8. And in the second round, Ant-Man showed why you can never count him out. Against the Nuggets, Minnesota won the first 2 games, but after Denver rattled off 3 straight wins, the series looked all but over.
The Minnesota Timberwolves have me looking like I have made the worst prediction in the history of my career.
Then, in Game 6, Ant was a two-way menace. He led all scorers with 27 points, but the Wolves' stifling defense really made the difference. They had 9 steals as a team, and Edwards had 3 of them, as they cruised to a 115-70 victory. The Wolves carried that momentum into Game 7. Ant struggled on the offensive end, but played phenomenal defense once again, and Minnie closed out the series away from home. Anthony Edwards led the Timberwolves back to the conference finals for the first time in 20 years. Their opponent was the Dallas Mavericks, and after some amazing performances from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they defeated Minnesota. But Ant-Man won over the hearts of all NBA fans during the playoff run. He has everything you want in a superstar. Confidence? Check. High-scoring numbers and filling up the stat sheet? Check. Insane dunks and mesmerizing highlights? Check. But on top of all that, it's Edwards' character that separates him from everybody else.
Them earrings you got on right now?
Fake. They just look good, so
The shoes you got on right now?
not even real.
In his interviews, he doesn't stop smiling. He never backs down. And in a loss, he takes responsibility and puts the blame on himself.
It was a step behind everybody, especially myself. Kyrie got a transition layup from, I think we scored, and he just outran me, and I was just exhausted, man, so.
Anthony Edwards is him, and it's surreal that he's only 22 years old. With his insane work ethic, he's continued to get better every season, and we know for certain that on the biggest stage, he's going to deliver every time.